But if I can come back to this thing about fantasy that the universe can't contain, because I think we touch something very interesting here. Very interesting. Because if I can try to make some kind of a even a superficial demonstration that I can't help making just for what you said. If we say that there is a number, any number, we don't care in fact, but we know there is this number, that this number, the universe itself will not be big enough to let us write this complete number.
Well, if the universe is infinite, it might be big enough.
Yes, but at that point, even if it is, let's say, the universe as the physicist represented with the Big Bang and 13.8, I don't know, like 14 billion years
of expansion,
square expansion, etc. That there is a number somewhere, there is a number where the entire universe, at least this universe, as we can figure out,
we can see through our telescopes.
Exactly, that could be contained. And in fact, any kind of universe we can imagine, because we can always imagine a number that can be contained with this universe that we have actually imagined just before we realized that we could write this another number that will be bigger, etc. So that means that the universe, as we see it, I agree. So this material universe, because the way we see it is actually material. It's what we see, what we believe we see. Is not, I will not say even big, but I will say great enough in a way to contain our fantasy. Our fantasy is our mind. So maybe the universe is our mind. Maybe it is our mind because that.
Or somebody's mind.
Or somebody's mind. But just the fact that we say it's, and let's
the universe is a big idea, that's idealism, right?
Let's overcome this difficulty that Einstein will call, is it a personal mind, my mind, the mind of the other, of God, or etc. It is just mind. If we say it's mind, not even solving the question of the mind of whom it is, because it might be again a fake question to say the man of whom it is, like our identity, etc., etc.
It could be pure mind. It doesn't have to be anybody's mind.
Exactly. It's what I want to mean.
If the universe is built out of information, if it's built out of consciousness and information, it's all conscious.
Exactly.
You could imagine having that as the basic reality, then matter would be an epiphenomenon. It would be secondary.
Yeah.
So that would be a pan-psychic world. Everything would have some...
Pan-psychic, exactly. That's the position of Alfred North Whitehead, what we just actually described.
Okay.
That's actually, and his position about God and everything, inspired by Leibniz, and it's actually that. It's actually that. He said like the material world is just the actualization of the thought itself. So it's something that is crystallized and that creates the appearance of materiality itself. So materiality is real, but it's real in itself. It's the interpretation of what it is supposed to be.
It's not the fundamental reality.
But it doesn't mean that because in a way, if what is not the fundamental reality, it's what we believe as being the universe. It's the interpretation of our perception as it is material. It is what is not real. But in a way, if we know that this is just perception and we don't believe that it is material in the way we usually think it's material, we are not mistaken.
Okay, so that's an idealist posture?
Actually, to say the truth, it's a Buddhist.
It's a Buddhist.
Yeah, I'm very influenced by specific what they call the Vijnana Vadin. Vijnana means mind, and Vijnana Vadin, that means the one that say that there is just the mind. because they say, I don't deny that there is something strong here and that I hurt myself because there is the table and everything and all that. It's not, that's not the point, because there are interaction all the time and all that. And the mind is like the material world is actually the mind, but when we don't understand what is the material world because we don't see that it is the mind, we also don't understand what is the mind. That's the reason why we think that the mind will be something that we can't, it can't be painful, etc., etc., etc. But the mind is not this empty space that we figure when we are materialist, or it's not that. It is not even a substance, but in the same time it's everything. But so it's everything, it's also a thing.
So you build the world out of mind. Well, build. You don't
exactly,
like the word build.
Exactly. Yes. Do you because there is something very important in if we enter in this Buddhist Vijnanavadin thing. They said the real mind, not our mind or our limited mind or the way we refer to our mind being part, in fact, of our embodied mind. We will say the real mind is not born. So there's a reason why it can't die, because it's not built.
It's eternal. Yes, well, I think Schrödinger refers to that in one of his little books. And the idea is that each of us is a window to God or to mind. And when you die, you go back to being part of the universal mind. You thought you were separate while you were alive, but that was an illusion. You're just a little window to the universal mind,
but
which is everything.
You know what? It's quite close to what I would want to discuss, but when we will be further on, about Leibniz monad with the windows thing. When he was talking about the windows, what does that mean, that the windows are closed, and the pre-established harmony and the closed windows, etc. I think it's not accurately interpreted. This thing about the idea that the monad will be closed in is something else. But to go on.
Yes, I have some opinions about that.
I'm sure you have, because you are very knowledgeable on Leibniz.
Leibniz thought that it would be fatal for Europe if the French philosophers, who were atheists, prevailed. He thought that politically and socially it would be fatal for Europe. And therefore he was looking for a way to make religion, a pretty abstract kind of religion he was interested in, theism, compatible with the mechanist philosophy, which is the early version of modern science. Now it's called science, and it was called the mechanical philosophy. And in my opinion, the weirdness of the monadology is because he's just trying to show that it is possible for these two things to be compatible. Now, there are problems, right? The mind-body problem is a problem. That mind is immaterial, and therefore, how can the mind decide that you have to move your arm? You have this problem that doesn't fit into physics, right? It
doesn't, exactly.
So Leibniz accepts this, and he postulates the pre-established harmony to eliminate the contradiction. The pre-established harmony says that the mind is in sync with the material world, even though it has no direct causal interaction. Now, this is certainly a conceivable possibility, and Leibniz was always trying to show that ideas that seemed contradictory were at least in principle compatible. For example, he wanted to reunify Protestantism with Catholicism, for example.
He always wanted to overcome contradictions.
Right.
That's the reason why the philosopher that understood him the most is the modern dialectician, Hegel. Hegel is an interpretation of Leibniz, but with the idea of history, where contradiction always mixed together to reach something that is. He was obsessed with Leibniz.
Oh, fascinating! I had no idea. Hegel to me is a mystery.
No, Hegel was fascinated by two things. There are, in fact, two sources. There is the Jacob Boehme, the alchemist, on the fact, on the idealism, the pure idealism of Hegel. Like the history itself is like an enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment.
There's the spirit.
Exactly. And the second,
Geist, right?
And the second is what you actually say. That's the reason why it comes to my mind. It's this thing that Leibniz tried to do in everything, and he extended that to try to overcome contradiction, to deal with contradiction.
This is what history is doing then.
Yeah, exactly. But for Hegel, he added the history thing and say, oh, that's actually the point. History is just that. You know,
fascinating.
It is just that. Just before we finish this first session, I'd like just to come back a little bit to a thing that I didn't interrupt you.
While I'm a mathematician, I believe in infinity. I live in that world. You know, it's more real than the real world. In the real world, there's fake news. You know, everything is a little muddy. But in the world of mathematical ideas, everything is very sharp. The light is very bright. It's very clear. It's very crystalline.
I can see you are very Platonician, because you are even using the metaphor of the light, of the luminosity and the clear.
People, you know, it may be problems with sexuality, for example, dealing with the real world. The real world is messy, but the world of mathematical ideas is much clearer and sharper than the messy real world, where you can always dispute, you can always argue about something in the real world. But in the world of mathematics, there's pretty much a consensus that a proof works or it doesn't. Well, if the proof is 500 pages long, there can be a lot of argument. But things are much clearer than in the messy real world, you know. So it's a way for people to hide from the messy reality that they can't deal with by doing pure mathematics instead.
Except when they reach infinity and they try to deal with infinity, and this time it becomes messy again.
Yes, it can bite
they
you.
feel, oh,
it can
God.
bite you.
But what I wanted to finish with, it's this question of window, and the you know what you were talking about Schrödinger, and this idea that we are just little windows, and I tend to think a bit like that, yes. And it's very Buddhist also to say that we are just little windows, and so our identity, the belief that we are an identity, is just the illusion that actually makes us suffer because we wanted to maintain it, but it has no point, because in fact, you know, we are bigger than what we want to be, smaller. That's the reason why we actually feel bad, because we die, because we think we are this little person and there is nothing else than this little person and everything. But I think, and it is...
Very sophisticated philosophy, I think.
Yeah. I think...
So that's what, immanent God rather than a transcendent God? Is that what that is?
No,
a little bit.
I would not say that. I think it's an invention, this distinction between immanence and transcendence. Because when we say immanence, we think about what is downstairs, what is here, I will say. Right. And when we think about transcendent, we think about what is out there, like upstairs.
Where infinity is.
Infinity, like it's there.
there.
It is there. But first, infinity is already here. It's not there. Infinity is just here. You can find it everywhere. That's what is interesting, I think.
Oh, that's like Rumi, that you should never be lonely because the whole universe is inside you.
Yeah. And so transcendence, that means going through, going beyond. But to go beyond, you need to be here to go beyond. So it's a motion, transcendence. So it's in the same time, it's like Husserl that said that there is no difference between immanence and transcendence. It's just a point of view when we say immanence or transcendence. And I tend to agree with that. But what I wanted to mean about when we die and we actually like, it's like in the Schrödinger view, if I understood it, but I didn't know about this specific Schrödinger view that you actually shared with me, so that I'm glad about it. But does it seem like something that will be the dissolution of our identity, of what we are, everything. But the Buddhist way is different. It's because in the Buddhist way, we could say in the highest philosophical Buddhist way, because there are different, in the Buddhist view, they say that it's like if there are, the different doctrines are true, but they are true only on a certain perspective that people are able to grab, so we don't have to say it's wrong. We just say it's just what people...
Each person sees it at their level of perception.
Exactly. But the
highest,
highest,
something different.
The highest level, which is Dzogchen, the great perfection of things, what they call the great perfection, where everything is mind, and it's even the first sentence of the Dhammapada, the heart of every Buddhist teaching, is not it? In everything there is just mind, the first sentence in Buddhism, the first. But some people will think, so that means there is a dissolution, so you lose something when there's a dissolution. You lose what you were, you lose what you have enjoyed, you lose what you... That's not the Buddhist view. The Buddhist view is, even when you are enlightened, you don't lose anything. That means it's not because you are, because you're, when you die, you don't lose something. On the contrary, you add something that you didn't see before. And because you add something, that doesn't mean that you're losing what was before. So when they said full consciousness, they don't mean that we lose our memory. They mean that our memory, even if it is still there if we want it, doesn't mean anything for us anymore because we are bigger than that and we see it.
It's not important anymore.
You know what I mean? But doesn't mean you lose it.
It's there.
It is there.
But you don't take it as seriously
That's the reason
as you
why
did
some
when you were
people,
alive.
that is actually the reason for this idea, somehow not well understood, of reincarnation in the Buddhist view. So it's just people that are not able to accept that they are bigger, and so they make themselves smaller to re-enter in the process of not being able to be big, because they are scared to lose something while actually they are winning something. Exactly, gaining something.
So they reincarnate.
Exactly. So you don't even lose your identity in the Buddhist way, because the very concept of identity, it's actually, yes, it's a pure illusion, but if God is the mind itself, everybody is the reflection of God, but this reflection is not lost. It can't be always what it is, like infinitely. If it does want to, if this mind, and so that means in a way that if there was only God as God, the universe could not exist, because existence supposes that there is unity, but there is diversity in this unity in order to have the reflection of infinity itself. So it has to be infinity, it has to be plural too. And to be plural, it has to have, the mind, the differentiation of the mind and all that.
Well, this is all very fascinating. I just knew something about, what was it, the Hermetic doctrine, that everything is mind, and therefore the world is it called Hermetic, or is this
Hermetic? Yes.
The alchemist?
Hermes Trismégiste.
Yes. Everything is mental.
Yes.
And therefore everything is plastic. And therefore alchemy is possible.
Exactly. It's the alchemy, the theory, that was redynamized at the Renaissance. And that mixed up with Neoplatonism, with Platon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the school of...
A mystic, I believe.
Exactly.
I know very little about this.
It's the school of Alexandria.
Alexandria.
Alexandria, exactly. And Hermes Trismégiste is this somehow Platonic, half Christian, half Platonic, half dualist interpretation of everything is mind and God is mind itself. And alchemy.
And Boehm is something else.
Exactly, and alchemy is actually spiritual. It's only spiritual, and the transformation of the different metals, the different substance, are just the actualization of the mind. Yes. And so when we transform chemically the elements, we are actually transforming ourselves because we are connecting ourselves with what is real, and what is real is just the mind.